Hi, Pastor Pace. You're listening to TV Competition.
Ed Robertson, along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allens, we continue our look at This Week in TV History. This segment with Tony and Donna originally aired in September 2015. Tony?
Let's jump to the next day, September 16th, 1965, and this is a twofer. The Dean Martin Show debuted on NBC TV. You can already hear the song
That's
playing,
right.
yeah.
Well, no, it's just, as the story goes, and I believe a lot of this is true, when NBC approached Dean to do a variety show, I understand he didn't want to do it.
No.
And so he asked for an outrageous amount of money, and he said, I only want to shoot it on Sunday.
Whoa.
And I don't want to rehearse.
Wow.
I just want to do everything like in as few takes as possible. So in other words, he did it because look, he was busy doing Vegas. He was busy. I mean, he didn't need to do a television show. Plus, he didn't want to do anything that would screw up his golf game, you know. So
Yeah.
So he asked for these outrageous demands, and NBC said yes to all of them. So and that's sort of the genius of watching. I mean, I know Time Life has released a lot of the Dean Martin shows. Some cases entire episodes, in many cases as compilations, and it's fun to watch some of those early ones, especially from 65, 66, 70, because there's a very free spiritness, and if Dean goes up on a line, it doesn't matter.
No, it's okay.
You know, he had like the perfect character with the old-fashioned glass in his hand.
Yeah.
And so if he screwed up lines, it's, oh, wow, he's really hitting the sauce tonight. And, you know, I mean, that persona. But what was also funny is he would play straight, sober kind of, to Foster Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean, who was probably one of the best drunk comedic characters ever. I mean, he did the Dean Martin roasts, and just an amazing, just hysterically funny as that drunk. You know, the funniest drunk this side of Otis in Mayberry. And just to see Dean Martin giving straight lines to Foster Brooks also was hysterically funny.
We had the Alberici sisters on the show a couple of years ago. They were not part of the original Gold Diggers, but they were part of the second wave of Gold Diggers on both the Dean Martin shows, and then they worked with Dean in Vegas throughout the 70s and 80s. And going back to, you know, he's hitting the sauce again. They emphasized that's all an act, you know, and that, I mean, you know, but he did it so well, and that was part of the fun.
Yeah, and then, like you said, he just read the cue cards if he misread it. And there's some great bloopers, some of the musical things where he forgets a line or one of the girls forgets a line. And, you know, I mean, it's just priceless, but just when it doesn't work, it's hysterical.
Yeah, and again, it's all of the male guests, including Dean, would wear tuxedos.
Yes.
Yeah. That was kind of cool. And then, like, you know, the guest star, the female guest stars, whether it was Edie Adams, whether it was Shirley Jones, I mean, they were all dolled up. So there was, you know, it was like a high class. It was like you're invited to a high class party every week where everyone's just kind of having a good time. And then
the variety show was still a staple of American television, and this sort of was a classier version of it.
Exactly.
As I remember.
Some of the regulars, I believe, included Charles Nelson Riley during the first couple of years. Yes, during the first couple of years. Jonathan Winters popped by a lot. Bob Newhart popped by a lot. And, you know, it's just, I mean, there are clips available. It's just a lot of fun. And then, of course, you mentioned the roasts. Towards the end of the Dean Martin weekly variety show, it morphed into the Dean Martin roasts.
And some
those
of those
are always entertaining.
Yeah, so you look at some of those now on YouTube, and it's amazing. First of all, the what you had at the dais.
Yeah.
Just that talent. I mean, most of them are no longer around. I don't think any of them are around now. You know, Red Fox, Joan Rivers. Peter Falk did one
as Columbo
for Sinatra.
Yeah,
bringing his wife's lasagna, which was his. But he was playing Columbo.
It was hilarious.
Hysterical.
It was hilarious.
He wasn't trying to be funny. He was just being Columbo.
Yeah.
There was a roast of Johnny Carson, of Jackie Gleason. The Frank Sinatra one was probably the highest rated one. There was one where they roasted Dean Martin.
Yeah.
But some of the people there, Nipsey Russell, Slappy White, I mentioned Red Fox, Joan Rivers, I mentioned, Phyllis Diller,
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, of course.
Am I remembering Flip Wilson?
I'm sure Flip Wilson.
Yeah, he was doing a show down the hall.
Yeah, he would have been. I'm sure he would have been. I don't know whether they roasted Flip Wilson, but I'm sure he was.
I'm sure he was on the days.
Yeah. LaWanda Page.
Yeah.
Yep. On
But
Esther.
not as on Esther. I mean, she would be all dolled up, and she would come up and she would throw zingers at whoever. I mean, I think she was probably there for Red Fox, but she was doing zingers.
Ruth Buzzy as the character she played on.
That's right. She did appear in character.
She did appear in character as I can't think of the name.
I never
I
knew
think was
her
it
name.
Gladys or.
I think it was Gladys.
She would have with Artie Johnson, and she would always hit him with the purse.
Yes.
And so she would do like the shtick with Dean Martin. She would say something very straight, and then he would have a punchline, and she would hit him with the purse. And it looked very improvised. Obviously, the timing had to be perfect, and it probably was in perfect sync with rehearsal. But it was always very, very funny. There was Gleason's roast. You had Art Carney as Ed Norton.
I missed that one. I'll have to look that one up.
That one was also very, very funny. Let's stick with this theme. If we go to September 17th, 1950, comedians Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis make their first appearance as hosts of the TV variety show, The Colgate Comedy Hour.
Now, that was... We've thrown around the word controlled anarchy a lot, especially with some of the early variety shows. Certainly when you watch Martin and Lewis in their prime, especially Jerry Lewis. And again, Jerry Lewis is one of those people, I think he's best taken in small doses.
Yes, I would say so, whether it is classic or modern.
Or telethon.
Yes.
You need to take it in...
Whereas Dean, you can watch or listen to forever. I mean, Jerry is best taken in small doses.
Yeah, I don't.
You can OD easily.
Yeah, I don't think you can respectfully add to that statement. But you had the two of them. Yeah, you're absolutely right, which I think does say about the Dean Martin's variety show later. He did, they worked best when there was no structure.
Yeah,
and. Also, when they were doing nightclubs together, there was no script that they worked. They didn't go. We're going to do this routine and then this routine and this. They worked the audience. They just played the room. But also, when the Rat Pack would be in Vegas, there wasn't no two shows were the same either. And I think that's how Dean Martin would thrive. Yeah. It's interesting that Jerry Lewis would later go on and direct. And actually be very good as a director, but and be innovative as a director with the video assist. And
it's been said of Dean that Dean didn't want to work too hard. I don't think that's true. It's just Dean. I mean, it's just it was less important to Dean to do some of the things that Jerry did, like direct. And Dean knew what he was good at. Dean said, "Okay, fine. Just let me. Okay, I come in. I do my song. We'll tell a couple of jokes, and that's because that worked best for him."
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you look at comedy teams like Abbott and Costello, Bud Abbott would have been very happy staying in the clubs. Yeah. Lou Costello was saying, "No, we need to go to Hollywood and make movies and do radio and do all these." So he was definitely pushing, and they were very successful doing that. But at a certain point, I think a lot of partnerships like this, they start to grow and evolve, and they want different things. And Jerry wanted to continue with film, and he wanted to direct and be, wear many different hats. And Dean was very happy being Dean.
Yeah, and plus, I think Dean worked well with. Dean worked well with pretty much anyone he was paired up with. I mean, he worked well with all the Rat Pack members. He was the only person who I understand he was the only person who can stand up to Sinatra and say no, and not worry about it. I mean, everyone there was a bit of a kiss the ring bit with Sinatra, as I understand, but that never fazed Dean, and I think Sinatra. I think it's obvious Sinatra respected that.
Yeah, and there's all those stories, and and I'm sure as time goes on and memories fade and And as there are people now who are more comfortable talking that wouldn't have 40 years ago, there's going to be even more stories coming out, about that era. I mean, which is, first of all, it's magical when you're looking at some of these old kinescopes, but then to hear some of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes, it's also pretty amazing. But Dean, I was trying to say, when you talk about him being lazy, this was a very talented performer.
Yeah.
He did a lot of stuff. He could sing, he could act, he could tell jokes, he could be very funny. He could do the dramatic work when he was offered a role that he liked. I mean, he did Airport. He did that was I think he
didn't like to work any harder than he actually had to.
But I don't. People might humbly say that they're lazy or they didn't want to work at all. There are people who work extremely hard at their craft, make it look so easy, and they are very, very busy working on that sort of stuff, and they know what they are good at and what they are not good at, and when they get that niche, they know who they are and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they're very confident in knowing that, and don't want to waste time to do something that they feel is not going to be working. They might dismiss it as lazy, but I am sure he was anything but. It's like, there are people who are disciplined. I would say that with artistic disciplines, you might find some of the most undisciplined-looking person, and you don't realize how disciplined they are in their craft and their art.
Yeah,
you're going to judge them because there's a sink full of dishes.
Well, it's the old line Sinatra used to say about the difference between Dean and he as singers. He would, Sinatra would say, "Dean is a crooner, I'm a singer." The difference, and it just because Sinatra always took an actor's approach to the song, whereas Dean was comfortable singing what was popular and doing that kind of and adding his own personal style to it. It doesn't make one better than the other. It's just different styles.
And there's a place for everyone.
And he worked just as hard in the recording studios, getting it right on the first or second take. Before we forget, the Alberici sisters wrote an excellent book called Beyond Our Wildest Dreams. It really takes you back into the era, not only of the Dean Martin show, but also the great days of nightclubs before we morphed into the super size arena era. Back when you would go to, the Circle Star Theater up in San Francisco or some of the smaller venues down
Ciro's here, which became the Comedy Store.
Exactly.
And Dean Martin had a place across the street.
So it's a trip for those of us who remember that era. It's a trip down memory lane. For those who may not remember, it's a nice look. It's a nice look at the living, breathing history from many of the people who worked that era.
And I've said this before. I remember seeing the roasts and seeing Dean Martin and seeing these old guys in tuxedos, and my grandparents loved watching them. My dad was a fan of Sinatra. My mom dated Frank Jr., but to me that was like these old guys because I knew them when they would appear on TV. They were old guys. And then when I saw these kinescopes as an adult, where they were much younger as the Rat Pack, it's like, now I get it. It's like, this was cool. This is what was defined as cool in that particular time period. Elvis was cool, and I understood Elvis being cool at a very young age. I did not understand these guys being cool until I was an adult, and then I got to see them perform in Vegas, and it's like, now I get it.
And Tony, they're still cool.
They're still cool.
Well, you both are cool.
Yeah.
Childoftelevision.blogspot.com, childoftelevision.blogspot.com, also storysalon.com or facebook.com/storysalon. You can enjoy Tony Figueroa's standalone podcast this week in TV history, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt
future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay Area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode. We'll be back with more TV Confidential right after this.